Hey everybody, welcome back. It's the Masked Boomers, and
Been a while.
I'm Ward, and this is
Ice cream soda.
for those of you who don't
I
know who
still
we
haven't
are.
had one.
And no,
Gotta
you
go get
haven't.
one.
Gonna have one on camera,
Maybe next
but that
time.
would mean we'd have to.
That
That would
would.
mean we'd have to make one. We'd have to learn how to make it real. Get
Oh no,
the
I'll
soda
go buy
water.
one.
Anyway, hey, welcome back from your trip.
Yeah, thanks.
How was it in Colorado?
Uh, High elevation was up
Oh, I
there.
thought I thought maybe you'd gotten a little cannabis or
Well,
something
you
at the
can out there,
yeah,
but
I know
no,
you can.
no, it wasn't.
You
It was
mean
nice, always nice to welcome a grandchild and interact with the children.
interact?
Yes.
You mean play?
Yeah. Well.
That's pretty funny.
Flying out was interesting because they had just lifted the masks.
Oh, that's right. The day
So
before, a couple days before. So you got to fly mask free.
free, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Although I would say the first airport wasn't quite ready to give it all up, but that's because that's the East Coast.
So you mean there were a lot of? Well, how many people on the plane? What percentage of the plane the people had masks on? Did a lot of people still wear them?
Oh, maybe 20%. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. Once you were on the plane, it was just watching people walk around.
Okay, so most
Depending on where
people.
they were flying, but most people were done with it. Although there were a few stewardesses that weren't done with it.
Stewardesses, boy, if that isn't ageist, huh? Stewardesses, I mean flight attendants, right?
Flight attendants,
Stewardesses,
yes,
that's
that's true.
great.
Flight attendants. Yes, it is different that way.
But they're still, well, but that's okay. All anybody ever wanted from the beginning was the freedom to wear them or not wear them.
Right, right.
So that's
Coming
fine.
back two
Yeah,
weeks later, completely different. Way less people
nobody
in the
wear them.
masks.
Well, and it's funny because if you, what was it, that kind of leads into, the numbers from the CDC this past week. They were talking about infection rates, new cases. And the people with the highest infection rates were the people that have had a couple of shots,
But
booster.
yes,
Uh,
the
it-
highly
the
vaccinated
highly vaccinated, the group with the lowest new cases are the
on
entirely
unvaccinated,
unvaccinated.
and yet Biden is still pushing. I just heard
Wow.
him today say something about we've got to get these people vaccinated.
I was talking to,
Good luck.
I won't use his last name because he's our neighbor, Ed,
Uh-huh.
across the street. The guy who helps
Yeah, yeah,
with the
yeah,
work.
yeah. I know who you
He
mean.
was diagnosed with the same thing I was diagnosed with, same period after he got the jab,
Injected.
and he's dealing with exactly the same stuff. But his job before he came down here was he worked for a medical research firm, and one of the guys he worked with is a Nobel laureate, and that man told in research, viral research,
Hmm.
and he told him some time ago. He says, "Don't don't put it in your arm. Don't let them put it in your arm." He says it's too late. He says, "Well,
Don't
he
let
said,
him do it
don't let
again.
him do it again." So anyway,
Yeah.
so it's more and more of that stuff comes out. But anyway, you were in the what is it called now? The Rocky Mountain State? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Colorado?
yeah.
Yeah. You do anything interesting? Any good hikes or
No, we didn't
anything?
really have the opportunity. There was
No?
always somebody that needed a nap,
Oh,
including
the two
us.
little ones, including us.
So,
That's okay. That's all right. But well, at least you got to see the new guy, the little guy before the summer
or he's
visit.
full grown.
Yep, that's good. Before he's full grown. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's good to be back, everybody. We've missed you all over the last couple of weeks. It's been pretty quiet. Question we have is stock market woes, and be as specific as possible.
Oh,
Well, yeah, there are stock market woes,
yeah.
and
But we're not
we're not.
financial advisors to anybody. So,
Well, but that's why we spend a lot of time talking about it because we have that's where all our retirement stuff sits, And as I won't use his name, but the guy that we have had as over the past couple of years as an advisor has, from the moment we met him, we talked about the fact that our expectations were always about. I mean, at our stage of life, your investment objectives are obviously different, and they're more conservative. And because you haven't got, if you blow it, you haven't got as much time you haven't got 10 years or 15 years or 20 years to recover.
Right.
And so he specializes, although he's a young man, he's in his 40s. He is works with folks who have got more of a conservative bent in what they want to do, want to strike a decent balance. And he has been saying unequivocally, and in fact has been managing, not only ours, but his other clients' investments incredibly conservatively since last November. He has, since last November, the research he was looking at was saying we were going to have an big time economic slowdown at the end of the first quarter, and inflation was not transitory, that it was going to be around, and it was going to be brutal, and it was going to be around for probably at least a year. And then over the past 2 months, he's been talking about the Fed, and because they've gotten behind the eight ball, now they've got to go at these big rate increases, which is going to absolutely crush the economy. So, in short, the decline that we've seen in our portfolio is minimal compared, and he has turned a high percentage of our investments into cash, and is not planning on investing on anything until the end of the second, probably into the third, maybe even the fourth quarter. It'll depend on what the market does as it starts to come back, because he believes that the market has the ability to crash another 10 to 15%, which would mean it might be end up down being 30 or 40% by the time it's done. And there are going to be some incredible buying opportunities. But anybody who is saying, "Oh, it's bounced back," I get the term he uses for that is a bear market bounce. All the indicators say that we're not going to recover anytime this year. And so when you see these daily rises and stuff, maybe the big boys can make some money because they jump in and out real fast. But if the little guy is trying to time that and buy and sell and make money, you're just going to get crushed. And so this is a time. His advice, and he's been offering it on TV, and they've been, the guys he's been on with are saying, "You haven't been wrong in the last 4 months," and he hasn't. And he's saying, if people are saying, "If I have money now, what should I invest in?"
Hold it.
He said, "Keep it. Stay on the sidelines. Be patient. Don't let your emotions get to you, and just stay on the sidelines with your cash and wait, because the buying opportunity is going to be astounding in the sometime in the later part of the year." That's all I know. But that's the way we're managing our stuff, and it's working. Doesn't mean that you can't make money, but every day I check our balances, and he's converted more stuff to just cash, so that he's got more ready to go, as they say, keeping your powder dry so that you can use it when it counts. Oh, have you seen 2000 Mules? Look it up quickly if you don't know what they're referring to. I know what the 2000 Mules is. This is about the ballot harvesters, that the network that were used in the 2020 election. And Dinesh D'Souza has put out this movie, and they tracked, with the GPS stuff and so forth, they tracked the movements of like 2,000 people who were basically doing the illegal ballot thing,
Right,
and
right.
stealing the election.
Right.
And I haven't seen it yet. We actually, I've actually checked to see where I could see it, but because we live in an area where there's not some of those kinds of things, when they premiere, they show at very select theaters. we couldn't see it, but I am going to get it. Even if I have to buy it, I'll buy it online and do it. But I fully intend to watch it.
Yep. Me too.
I like D'Souza. He's got some stones. He tells the truth, and he's not afraid to. I always a sidelight on D'Souza. I always loved the story about him when he spent time in jail for a campaign contribution law violation. They came after him. The Obama administration came after him on a really petty charge on things that other people do, and they put him in jail. And I read his book about what he learned in talking with these convicts who absolutely understood everything that was going on. And he
got a lot of
actually
time.
he used it to his advantage to understand what was going on. He's a very interesting guy. Anyway, but yeah, I haven't watched it. I fully intend to. Do I prefer the Doobie Brothers before or after McDonald came in?
Oh, I can't answer that one.
Well, I can't. I'm not sure what the McDonald refers to. I mean, remember we were in Disney World on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
We were
The
in the
Doobie
front of the
Brothers,
stage,
yeah,
right at the
they
Doobie
were
Brothers.
right
We were
there.
right there. We were in like the
Yeah, but
the
that
10th
was
row. That was
25, 30 years ago.
that was.
Oh,
Stevie Lee was
at
still in
least.
college. It was 20 years ago.
Anyway,
Yes, 20 to 25 years ago. I like to. Okay. Do I prefer the Doobie Brothers? When we were in
I haven't followed their career since then, and I didn't know
no,
who
same
they
here. I mean, I knew them. I was
barely
never
knew who they were when they
I
performed.
was never huge fans, but when we saw them in Disney World, 20 years, 25 years ago, when we went down there with the family, that was good. It was nice. It's always nice to be for a live performance, but I can't really say I prefer them before or after McDonald. I just thought I was kind of, I always kind of viewed him as a 6 out of 10.
I have no idea.
Well,
Remember, I can't read them. Without my, I
I
can't.
remember. I know you can't read them. Did or do you listen to many black artists like Parliament Funkadelic or Rick James? I have no idea who either one of those are, but we grew up in the Motown era.
Yeah, we listened to a lot.
And I mean, I'm a huge Ray Charles fan. I always loved James Brown,
Temptations.
Wilson Pickett. Oh man, absolutely, absolutely. Always,
They
always
had the
enjoyed them.
moves. They had the moves then.
Uh,
They were all
who were
dancing
the
when they
Earth,
sang.
Earth, Wind and Fire. I remember we were in Boston one time, and we were down in the Crossing, and we were kind of walking around, and we heard this music, and it was coming from a record store. I think it was Earth, Wind and Fire, and so I mean, yeah, we always have. I mean, if you're gonna
Good
if
music,
you're gonna listen
good
to good
music.
blues, it's awful hard to find. I mean, there certainly are folks that aren't black that can play some blues, but I always love, like, yeah, you're right, like the Supremes, the Motown sound. They were all good. Wilson Pickett was it? I went to see one of my favorite concerts that I went to on the Cape Cod
Network.
many years ago when I was a kid was Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. But they were awesome. It was a It was a great concert. Smokey, and in fact, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles were part of that card just before they were all big names. So yes, always always like to listen to that music. Still do.
And they were just concerts. They weren't these grandiose performances that these people put on now.
Yeah, they were nice shows, but but it wasn't.
Wasn't.
Yeah, right.
Over the top.
True. I didn't realize how much stuff is kind of locked up in your head till people ask you questions about it, and you tap into 30
Well,
or 40 years ago.
when you can tap into it.
Speaking of Disney World, what are your thoughts on Disney currently? I'll let you comment first on that one, Soda.
Yeah, I think they've crossed a line.
What line was that?
Well, things they think that they have the right to teach children and expose children to, regardless of the age, because there won't be an age limit put on anything.
Well, I guess the way I think about it is if I'm glad that the CEO was foolish enough to cave to the pressure
Yeah.
inside and shoot his mouth off, because if he didn't, we never would have learned, at least I wouldn't have, just how prevalent their thoughts are about, introducing as many queer characters, to use their terms, as possible, as many trans characters. The lady who's in charge of content saying, "Oh, I have a
she's still there.
pansexual kid." Oh no, she's full steam ahead, and she says it's all being supported. So my thoughts are that I'm not going to give them any of my money. I'm
Yeah.
not going to encourage any of my kids or grandkids to give them any of their money. And it's all because they mischaracterized a law that simply says, it doesn't even use, that's the thing they called it, the Don't Say Gay bill, and it doesn't even use the word gay. It simply says you can't teach anything about sexual orientation to kindergartners through third grade. Wow, what an unreasonable point of view that is. Yeah. And these guys say, "Oh, we're gonna," that's because this guy Chapek has he's just a weenie, and he just caved to people and his people inside chirping at him, and he gave in. And now and if they're going in that direction, and that's the way they seem to, because they've said they're going to add as much of this content as they can. Good luck. Go woke. I hope go broke.
Yeah.
And but it's I'm not gonna support him. And you don't know how hard that is for us to say, because we always enjoyed that stuff. That was part of our childhood growing up.
Yeah.
We were looking at the original stuff with the Disney productions.
Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's been part of our lives for years. And then to have them, say, "Well, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to do much of that. See you later.
Turnabout.
Have fun. I'm going to do it without my money
Or support.
Interesting questions, relevant questions today. Mm-hmm. Do you think Walt Disney would die of a heart attack immediately at the state of his company, or go postal? If you take the go postal thing, would he whip out a weapon? Probably not. He wasn't inclined that way. But do I think that he, yeah, I think he'd have had a stroke. But he would have taken. He also would have. He never would have tolerated any of this in his company.
No.
It's to draw an analogy. One of the things that's happening at Disney is, if I memory serves correctly, is Chapek is under fire. So you got the dude Iger, who was before him, who's everyone said, "Oh, come back, he should come back and run it." Let's go all the way back to Walt, and Walt would turn this thing back to what it was intended to be. He was an atheist. He wasn't this paragon of virtue, but he loved kids and he knew wholesome
Right.
and he knew right and wrong. And he would run the company that way. I'm sure he was an SOB to work for because they are so precise and so good at what they do. You can only be that way if you're a tough boss, no question about it. But I think he would just be very disappointed. I think he'd be hurt and embarrassed to have his name attached to what this
stuff.
is.
Yeah.
Unlike his granddaughter or whoever is the heiress who got money that she didn't earn in any way, shape, or form, and now she uses it and advances it as if she actually had the right to speak for her grandfather.
Right.
Well, I got fired up, but it's true though.
Well, it's true.
She's a nouveau riche who did nothing, free trust fund baby, and
Yeah.
and then gonna.
Everything handed to her.
And then, foments this trash being forced on everybody. What an interesting world we live in right now.
Evil.
It is brutal. Okay. Well, as I reach for my something to drink here, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will talk about some parallels between the world we have living in today and the 70s and whatever other questions might you all might send in during the break. Okay, so we'll be back in about 10. Thank you. Don't know yet. I should remind them to hit the subscribe button.
Okay, you're on.
Welcome back, everybody. I had forgotten to mention, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and so that you get notified when we're when we're going to be on, because I think we'll be back on a reasonably regular schedule for a little bit, leading into the summer months. And let's take a look. What was that last question that we wanted to explore? That's quite.
We did.
No, that was the comment from the chat. Was the Walt Disney and Henry. Walt Disney and Henry Ford shared a lot of the same opinions. Interesting. Was there what opinions in particular did they share that caused you to write that question? If I could kind of ask back. I mean, one of the things that strikes me, and why hopefully he'll answer that question back for us, so we can get into it. But one of the fascinating elements of Walt Disney, I think Disneyland, and especially Walt Disney World, and the industry that I worked in, we did some work with on a lot of electronics with Walt Disney. And the thing you come to realize is they had brilliant engineers, and they're brilliant in a lot of areas. And they did things themselves. If they needed something, or there was something that was lacking, that they needed to whether it was make an attraction, a movie, whatever it happened to be, they would invent it themselves and they'd make it. And I did have some friends who worked there, and there's an entire underground city beneath Walt Disney World, and tunnels where the logistics and the way they move things and people so that everything can look perfect up top. It's pretty amazing. And I don't think that's a big jump when you talk about somebody like Henry Ford, who from a factory automation and building things and doing what you needed to produce, mass produce automobiles, assembly line. I could see where those guys could have an awful lot to talk about, because they were creative, and they knew how to do things on a massive scale. It's one thing to figure out something and then do onesie twosie. It's quite another thing to manage something on such massive scales. So I'm not surprised. They're geniuses, clearly, in being able to pull stuff like that off. Still with us there, Ice Cream Soda?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, because Disney was really the master of the storytelling and the movies. The park probably came about using other people to orchestrate, the layout. And
you mean like, they didn't, I mean, those guys were known for their animation, right?
Right. Disney was he was the brain behind all the animation and storytelling and scripts for the movies. I was just wondering how much he actually, obviously he gave him permission for these parks, but you wonder how much he was really involved in the building of the park, because he was still focusing on the movies.
Oh, I don't know. I think he
obviously they took all kinds of parts of the movies.
No, but I think that he was very involved in all of that, because when you think about it, they had to go and purchase like 25,000 acres or something. I mean,
well, they did.
You don't just go, I'm going to go buy 25,000 acres in the middle of nowhere.
They did the California one first, and then they realized they didn't give themselves from that one, they probably learned they needed a way bigger area.
Well, Disneyland was also probably done many, many years, obviously, in advance of
Disney World.
Disney World,
Right.
you know.
So they
And,
learned from that they didn't buy enough land
well,
because they couldn't expand.
Disneyland is 1 square mile. It is a mile on each side.
Well, because of where they put it.
Yeah, I mean,
How
and
big
I
is
think,
Disney World?
well, as I said, it's like 23,000
My
acres. It's
God.
but
Crazy.
phenomenal. It's well, I mean, as we learned,
They're still building
no,
on
as
it.
we learned from the first question, on this thing with Disney and the state of Florida, they've taken away Disney's special privilege. Disney has been it's some really something. They've been self-governing. Essentially, they've been a little city or a little
Able to do whatever.
whatever they wanted to without having to be bogged down by various permitting processes and so forth. And so, I mean, it was a grand scale.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's
Could do
it's a
whatever.
yeah, it's basically a municipality.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Not anymore.
I mean, but my point being that that's how big they were thinking, because that was done that agreement was signed in 1968.
Yeah. We wouldn't even know the park at this point because of how much it's changed since we've been there.
Yeah,
We wouldn't
that's a good
recognize a
question.
lot of the
Probably.
displays and rides.
There you go. Have you all ever been to Disney parks outside of the U.S.? No, no, haven't been to
No,
anything
no
outside
desire
of this.
to.
Where are they now? They have Japan. Is it
France.
France? What else? Any place else? Surprises, you know.
Oh,
Yeah. Says this question, it says, I see so many parallels between today's world and the 70s. Wondering, do you as well?
hmm.
Go ahead.
Parallels. Well, the 70s was a time of disruption. The Vietnam War was going on, a lot of protests, people saying they're going to leave the country rather than serve. Well, of course, the draft was in effect then too, so it was a different time. Trying to think if there were like any economic parallels. Was there
Oh gosh.
a
Well,
dip
you
in the?
remember when, because the 70s, remember when I was working, remember I had a letter that you could
Oh,
only
to
get
get
gas, that you
gas?
could only get gas on certain days.
Yeah, but
It was whether
because it
your
was your
license plate,
livelihood.
yeah, because it was my livelihood. I could get gas on any day, but this was under the Carter administration. But you had to go on, if you had an even number license plate, you'd go on certain days. If you had an odd number
Oh, and I
license
can
plate,
remember sitting in line.
sorry, that's very distracting. And so anyway, there's but it was all protests too. Same thing.
Yeah,
It was the stuff
upheaval.
on college campuses
Campuses. Yeah,
was you know,
Ohio State.
but it was
Somebody
no
was shot.
Kent
Oh,
State.
Kent State.
Kent State.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. When the National Guard, when somebody
Somebody
shot
shot them,
that
student.
student. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels,
That was
and
mostly about
that
the
was also
war.
the birth of the that was really kind of the whole Woodstock, the sexual revolution, the free love thing. There was yeah, there are a lot of parallels. There was the sexual permissiveness. There was the protests. There's kind of like the screw the man kind of take it all down. That was really the birth of a lot
Title
of the
IX had
radical
just
college
come
things.
into effect.
Yeah.
in
So
late
yeah,
early
there were a lot of things, and I guess one shouldn't be surprised that we're seeing some of it play out again, because a lot of the people who were born out of that whole generation are now the people who are in leadership, and they're bringing the same anarchy to approach to things that are going on, and they permit it, because they're familiar with it. But yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah, but in some ways we're going backwards.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not. I'm not talking about it like nostalgia. Not
Yeah.
at all. I'm talking about it as, oh man, It's
We've been through
worse.
this.
We've been through this, and it's worse. It's way worse now because the people who are in the seats of power
Well, we're also talking about the whole
are
abortion
that
thing.
way. Yeah, abortion. It's that discussion has been going on since then.
Right.
Absolutely. Nixon wrote in his diaries about a summer of rage where the weathermen were bombing and the military was fighting gangs in multiple cities. There were a lot of the Weathermen was a group. I mean, there was, the Black Panthers were in existence then. The Weathermen was a violent group, an extremist group. And, but it was, I don't know if I recall the police or, armed services fighting gangs in the cities.
Yeah.
I
Not
don't,
like not like what's going on now.
nah, I don't recall, it
They didn't
doesn't
get
mean
that much attention.
doesn't mean it wasn't going on. Maybe we just didn't hear about it. Maybe that was another one where the media was just telling us what they wanted us to know.
Well, nobody had cell phones. Nobody was standing around with their cameras taking
That's true.
pictures
You
of
only
every
got
little thing that
you
happened.
only got what they would allow you to see. It wasn't like you could have the civilian journalist, if you will, or individual journalist who
Right.
could post something right away.
Right.
So
Nothing was immediate as
I
far
mean,
as
there was a lot of. I mean,
news.
there was a lot of unrest, but I don't. Violence has now been given the stamp of approval. The way things are over these past couple of years, this is a lot different
Yeah.
than it was in because the public and people at large didn't accept and would never tolerate
Those people were locked up.
so much would never tolerate that much violence. Just for instance, these ideas of the smash and grab robberies or people getting beaten on the street and being let out right away. What was the thing that just happened this week? Because I remember the guy from a few months ago talking with his father. He was a transgender guy who was had been accused of a nasty assault and was let out because of his age. They charged him like as a juvenile, not as an adult, and they let him out, and he just committed a murder this past week. The fact that you would have people who do things like that, and the way the system works now in some of these places, like in California and New York, they let people back out on the street. It's
The next day.
that never
Never would have
existed.
happened.
Never would have happened
No.
back then. I don't know that the weathermen. I don't know that they bombed the Capitol. They may have tried, but I don't know that they bombed the U.S. Capitol. I don't ever recall any big explosions. Literally, do you?
Never.
I don't remember one. It doesn't mean it didn't
I don't
happen.
remember it, but they were talking about it on a show when they were doing that, when they were trying to compare it to the stuff from the January
Oh, from
6th.
January 6th?
And they did talk about how much more extreme and more violent all these other groups were in the past versus what happened on that day. So, I can't remember what they talked about, what they did actually.
I mean, I'm not,
But they are notorious for something.
I mean, I just don't recall anything being that huge. I may just have been
Again,
unaware.
I don't think we were aware. It's
I may
not
have
like
just
it
been.
is
I may have
today,
just
where
been
every little
unaware.
thing.
But I would have thought something like that. If it was a huge thing where the Capitol was bombed by somebody, that would be
Very
all of
possible it
everything.
was.
That would be
They
all
just
of
weren't
everything.
successful.
So the only thing I ever remember was the early years ago when someone tried to blow up the World Trade Center and almost succeeded years before 9/11.
Right.
Drink this without getting yarn in my face here. I'll let you answer that
I
one.
can't read it.
How do you and your fellow boomers view Hanoi Jane Fonda.
Well, I think there's multiple opinions about what went on then. I wouldn't put the boomers all in one group and say they all agreed or disagreed or whatever.
Well, there was certainly the anti-war movement, so uh,
Were
those people would be supportive of her. I mean, the thing that got her the nickname was having her picture taken
with a
with the North Vietnamese, like kind of on a gun, like a publicity photo, like it
yeah.
was a glamour shot. And I just don't think I don't think there's any need for that under any circumstances, regardless of agree or
What you
disagree with
right?
policies. That just
She crossed the line.
that just shouldn't be anything that you would do. So I think retrospectively people would say, oh yeah, how brave, look what she did, because she was proven right, because Vietnam was such a terrible waste of folks, and it was an unnecessary war
Sure.
retrospectively, no question about that. But it doesn't diminish the fact that that people did what they were thought they were doing their duty, and having somebody like her, and others, a lot of people treat people with such disrespect and such disdain. I don't have much use for her. Never did.
No.
And she was never a great actress either. Barbarella. Look that one up,
Yeah.
That was a classic. What are each of you most proud of as a parent? You have to be the first one on that one.
That I made my children the priority. I wasn't uh I wasn't trying to hold a job or prove anything. I felt that once I started a family, that was my priority.
I grew up in a house where my father was not around at all because of the nature of what he did for a living. Not that I didn't travel a lot at various times, but I made a very deliberate choice of not pursuing the career that I went to school for, which would have, put me on at sea, traveling all over the world, and I made a decision not to do that, because I remember the fact of I think I told a story some weeks back about the only sporting thing my father and I ever did was half a game of catch when I hit him in the head with a baseball on one.
That was
one
the end of the game.
that was the end, and it was the only time ever. So I think the fact that made the
You didn't.
decision to do that. But the other thing is, I am every family has issues, but at the end of the day, all of our kids are decent human beings. We never had any huge. We never had huge issues like crime issues or drug issues.
Or drinking
I
issues.
mean, I'm sure that they did a fair amount of stuff that we probably still don't know about.
Nobody
But
was an
that would be
addict.
it. That would be it. That would be it. What's that?
No one was an addict.
Right. And so the fact that we were able to, have a family and stay intact for all these years, and as we still do over the past years, everybody gets together, like at with during the summer, and we succeed in getting out all our kids and their spouses and our grandkids together and spend a week together. The fact that our family enjoys being with each other that much is really a nice thing to see as a parent, because they really do enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, they do.
Randy Weaver from the Ruby Ridge incident passed away recently. Boy, I don't remember much about it. I wasn't he the guy that that was about what about property, I guess, right? And I don't remember a lot about it. I mean, I he's a rancher, and I just don't remember the specifics,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
That may
I tell you, I'd be glad to to
look
look
it
it up
up.
and be ready to have a conversation about it next week because I'm sure I can refresh my memory. I just can't recall it.
Right.
It was a really kind of a almost like a militia like thing. It was armed people being ready to go to battle with the government.
Hmm.
Okay, everybody. We thank you for joining us today. It was good to be back. And again, as I said, please remember to like and share and subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you'll on your YouTube channel so you'll get notified when we're turned on. And we would just continue to ask if there's others you'd like to us to speak with, or if there are folks you'd like to share our information with, so that we could have expanded conversation with folks. We'd be glad to do that. So thanks again. It's good to be back, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.